Hello everyone, and welcome to the Miradore webinar on how to comply with HIPAA regulations and secure your devices in Miradore Online. My name is Sean Brennan, and I'm a marketing specialist here at Miradore. So, let's have a look at the agenda. First, our technical consultant and key account manager for Austria, Germany, and Switzerland, Mr. Andreas Handel, will run through a pre-recorded demonstration and more about that shortly. And then we'll have a case study from Mr. Kevin Boswell, security engineer of US-based MSP VCPI, of his use of Miradore Online, which includes complying with HIPAA regulations. And then we'll have a live Q&A session with both of them to answer all of your questions. So we encourage you to type your questions in the question box during the demonstration. And then some closing remarks. So, just a bit more about Andreas' demo. He is going to show the different ways to secure your devices. This will include ensuring passcodes are enforced, business policy compliance, locking a device, changing app permission access, and selective wipe. So with that said, let's begin the demonstration, and I will hand it over to Andreas. The stage is yours.
Thanks, Sean, and hello out there. Today we want to talk about securing devices in profile owner mode and device owner mode. I guess when we talk about security of devices, the most important thing is to have a passcode. In the middle of my screen you can see if all devices have a passcode set. If you click onto this graphic, you can go directly to your devices. And here you can see all devices with a passcode set. Security.passcode set, all is yes. If I open this device, I also can see if this device is compliant. If all settings and apps that I configured in the business policies are applied to the device. A very important thing is that if the device gets lost or stolen, that I can lock the device with one click. On the right side you can see my device, and if I click here lock device, it should get nearly immediately black. So if you want to enter the device again, you have to enter the passcode again so that your data is secure. But it's not just about get access to the data. It's also possible that different apps, like this Torch app on the phone on the right, is accessing confident data on your phone. I installed this app from the App Store, and normally a Torch app just requires the access onto the camera and onto the flash. If I open this app and take a look on the permissions this app requires, you can see here at the permission tab, this app also requires approximate location, modify and delete contents of your USB storage, and so on. So if you want to have an app from the App Store, please be careful. A lot of apps need more permissions than they need for their basic feature. With Miradore Online in the device owner mode or in the profile owner mode, you can set here the runtime permissions for this app. What I did before, I configured it so that this app is not allowed to modify my contents of the USB storage or read contents of the USB storage. For the Torch app, I just granted the permission to take photos and videos so that I can use the Torch, and when I switch on here, the Torch lights up. Oh, now I get an advertisement, and if I push again, the Torch switches off. But what happens when really one device gets stolen and you need to delete the data of your company on the phone, or if it's a device from your company with just company data, that you can really delete all information from the phone. So this is very easy. You see the phone on the right? I have here this profile owner mode installed, where you can see the apps, downloads, contacts, Miradore client, Play Store, and also my Gmail account from Miradore, where my company emails are stored. When I click here on Wipe Device, in this case with the profile owner mode, I execute a selective wipe. That means I just wipe off the company data from this phone. If this phone is in device owner mode, the complete phone will be wiped. So this is the last thing I want to show you for today, how a selective wipe works. At the moment you can see the icons with the work profile on the right, and if I click wipe device, and if I click wipe again, all data disappears from the phone. There is a notification on the top. Work profile was deleted. And now I lost the connection to the device because I also installed the screen mirroring software in the work profile. So, to sum it up, it's very important to take care of your company data. You should have a passcode set on every single device. If you have done this, you can see here a complete green circle. If not, you will see a part of the circle in red. In addition, you should configure the permission of the apps you want to install to your phone. This you can see here on the screen at the tab Permissions, here at the Permissions, and you can deny or grant permissions. If a device is lost and you're not sure if it's stolen or not, you can easily lock the device, and if you're sure that the device is stolen, you can wipe the device by clicking Wipe Device. So that's all, and I want to say thanks for your attention, and Sean, the stage is yours again.
Great. Thank you so much for that demonstration, Andreas. And now I'm happy to pass this over to Kevin Boswell of VCPI so that he can give his case study. So, Kevin, the stage is yours.
All right. Well, thank you, Sean. I'd like to thank everyone here for taking time out of their day to join us here. We'll be talking today about HIPAA compliance and how your mobile device solution plays a large part of staying compliant with the HIPAA laws. Again, as Sean said, my name is Kevin Boswell. I'm a security engineer for a company called VCPI. Security, I feel in the past, is something that was kind of brushed aside a lot by senior management of many organizations. Many organizations hosted a lot of their applications and kept data behind their own firewalls or policies or IPS, and a lot of them felt like that was enough to keep them safe. But nowadays it's been a huge shift over the past 10 or so years, I would say, from in-house applications to a lot of cloud-based solutions, with the prevalent use of federated services coupled with a lot of large organizations being hit with data breaches. I think it's really opened a lot of eyes up, and it's warranted the attention from many organizations for having a well-established policies and procedures with tools in place that allow them to stay compliant with HIPAA laws, and most importantly to minimize the potential of needing to report a data breach and the impact of having to do so. I'll begin today with a little more of an introduction to myself and talk a little bit more about VCPI and what we do. And I'll discuss the business need for MDM to comply with the HIPAA and privacy and security rules. And finally, I'll finish up with just mentioning why we chose Miradore as our preferred MDM partner. So again, my name is Kevin Boswell. I'm based out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I have a Bachelor's of Science in Information Technology, with a minor in Network Security, roughly 12 years IT experience, and the last 9 or so with B CPI. Began with them with the service desk and moved on to field services, traveling all around the continental U.S. and moved on to doing some consulting work, some risk assessments for some various clients of ours, and moved on to an endpoint and / systems engineering role. And the last 3 years have been with the security team. I guess I would say I'm sort of a mix between a security engineer and a security analyst, to be honest. Aside from dealing with a lot of the security technologies, I also am very involved with a lot of the policies and procedures and the governance documents that we use for VCPI and our customers, and participating in SOC audits and backing up what we're doing. So that's a little bit about myself. I'll talk now a little bit more about VCPI. So first of all, VCPI stands for Virtual Care Provider Incorporated. We're also headquartered in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We were founded in 2000. We kind of began as an IT company for a health provider and grew into our own company and started providing a lot of the same services that we were providing our parent company now for other companies. We do have clients located all around the continental U.S. Have roughly 2,400 LTPAC locations. LTPAC standing for long-term post-acute care, and I'll get a little bit more into that with my next slide. We have roughly 145,000 user accounts that we support, and say that we have about 300 applications that we support, but it's a hard number to quantify in this day and age, especially again with all the migration to cloud-based applications. It's hard to really quantify that total number of applications there. So I touched a little bit on my previous slide about us being in the long-term post-acute care industry. We are an MSP, as Sean mentioned. We are also a managed hosting provider as well. We are in the LTPAC vertical. We specialize in this industry, and it's basically comprised of organizations for post-acute care, so post-hospital visits. So I have up my slide here a number of acronyms, and it kind of describes what kind of clients we have. So we have SNF, as I referred to, for skilled nursing facility, ALF for assisted living facility. We have independent living. CCRC is kind of a combination facility. It's not just one, but can be many of the examples. Some of our clients also participate with home health or home hospice care, memory care, rehabilitation, and also pharmacies. So VCPI, we are known as a business associate, as are many of our partners or vendors such as Miradore that we work with. And most of our core clients are known as a covered entity. And a covered entity is a company that is generating and submitting EPHI, or Electronic Protected Health Information. So our slogan here, we believe technology's role should be more than merely a support mechanism. It should be an innovation engine that empowers end users and residents with the independence they crave. So that's a little bit more about our company. We'll go into a little bit more about what our offerings are. We do have roughly 100 full hosting clients. And when I say full hosting clients, I mean they participate in many of the services that we offer, such as our service desk, network and voice support, hosted applications, and a lot of our hosted applications are delivered to our clients via Citrix. We also provide mobile device management with Miradore and identity access management, so provisioning and account access control. Aside from our full hosting clients, we have a few hundred other various kinds of consulting clients. Some clients, we only provide service desk as a service for them. We might provide a HIPAA risk assessment as required by the HIPAA security rule, which I'll go into a little bit more further on into my presentation here. And I mentioned Citrix, so most of our full hosting clients do either utilize a full Citrix desktop or a published or hosted application that's delivered to an endpoint. It looks like it's a program on the machine, but it's really sitting out there in our data center. So again, we do provide a wide range of services, as you can see from the slide here and what I've mentioned. That's a little bit more about myself and the company, VCPI. I'm going to get into, switch gears here a little bit and talk briefly about the important milestones of HIPAA. So the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act was put into law in 1996, and the objective was to provide provisions for safeguarding EPHI. Wasn't perfect in its initial inception, but it did lay the groundwork for the laws that we have surrounding the protection of all of our health information. Part of the HIPAA law was a requirement for the HHS, or the Health and Human Services, to develop regulations protecting the privacy and security of our health information. So they, in turn, created the privacy and security rules. The privacy rule was created to give an individual the right to control his or her use of their own health information. And the security rule was crafted to establish security standards for protecting health information that is held or transferred in electronic form. As part of HHS, the Office of Civil Rights, or the OCR, was made specifically responsible for enforcing these rules, and later on for performing audits of a covered entity and business associate. In 2009, the HITECH Act was signed into law, and this expanded upon the responsibilities of a business associate under these rules and regulations. And it expanded also the liabilities of the non-compliant covered entity. And finally, here in 2013, the HIPAA Omnibus Rule was put into place, and this really laid a lot of the groundwork and outlined the OCR's enforcement strategies regarding the rules provisioned in the privacy and security rules. It also revised a lot of the penalties that were enacted with the HITECH Act as it applies to a HIPAA violation. It also made so business associates are held to the same standards for protecting ePHI as covered entity. Over the last few years, and really ever since OCR or the omnibus rule was put into place, the OCR has, with every passing year, increased the amount of audits that they performed on covered entities and business associates. So it's made it more and more important that companies pay attention and have solid policies and procedures and tools in place to follow their own governance or policies and procedures. So that was plenty of acronyms. I'm sure anyone listening here probably doesn't need to memorize any more acronyms. But my next slide, what does all of that really mean? Well, what it means is any covered entity or business associate must take reasonable steps to ensure ePHI is not accessible by anyone that shouldn't have access to it. So what does the business need for that? Well, it's the protection of health information and liability of a covered entity or business associate. The HIPAA breach notification rule requires the covered entity or business associate to provide notification following a breach of unsecured protected health information to the Health and Human Services. So it's important, because of this breach notification rule, that we ensure that data at rest on a mobile device is encrypted. This is of absolute importance to ensure that ePHI is not accessible in the event of a theft or loss of device. With mobile devices and in general, email and text messages are becoming communications of choice for more and more nurses, physicians, and ultimately people in general. Every year, more and more people prefer to use email or text messages. And with having a mobile device, that data can potentially be read if that device is lost or stolen. So it's important to note the data at rest on the device. I'll give you an example of a recent civil penalty that was handed down by the HHS. It was a total of $3.2 million was handed down to a covered entity. Originally, it was due to a laptop that was stolen that was unencrypted. And I realized that we're talking today about mobile phones specifically, but I wanted to bring that up because this same covered entity also filed a breach back in 2009 from an unencrypted BlackBerry that was stolen. So the reason this penalty was quite significant, because a lot of times the government will end up settling with an organization, a covered entity, or a business associate. In this case, they did not settle, and the reason behind that was the covered entity did not put reasonable safeguards in place following the initial breach involving a mobile phone. So even after the organization reported a breach, both from a laptop that was not encrypted and a mobile device that was not encrypted, they still chose not to encrypt these devices. And because of that, they were hit with a very, very massive civil penalty because of that. I want to share a bit here about how Miradore has helped prevent a situation like this from happening to us and our clients. Our clients have a mix of company provided and also BYOD or bring your own device scenarios. In either case, most mobile OSs at this point, they'll have encryption built into the device itself. However, it's not always turned on by default. And the importance of having a mobile device management solution in place is to enforce the use of a passcode on a mobile device, which in turn will ensure that the device data is encrypted. Going back to a mix of company-provided and bring your own device scenarios, we've had to adapt with how the industry decides how their endpoint or their employees, use their devices and what policies are applied based on the different scenarios. Some examples of that include company provided oftentimes will have location tracking enabled for the mobile device, whereas with a BYOD scenario, the company might not find it ethical to enable location tracking on the device. Another example, and Andreas got into that with showing on his demo, is company provided. Oftentimes we can do a full wipe on the mobile device, whereas with the BYOD situation, we're only allowed to selectively wipe whatever policies or data or applications that were applied via Miradore. And it's important to note every company has their own policies, and sometimes this is important because if they use a BYOD situation, you do a full wipe, you're wiping everything on the phone, or if you're doing an active sync wipe from Exchange, you're wiping everything on the phone. So it's important that we have that flexibility with Miradore, with having that full wipe versus a selective wipe. Another key area where we've used Miradore is with the enrollment process with devices. With iOS devices, you're pretty limited with just enrolling a device initially or without supervised mode with what device restrictions that you can set on a device. So in the past, years ago, it required you to plug in an Apple or iOS device to Mac OS X and use the Apple configurator tool to apply supervisor mode. Well, Apple came out with a different way to enroll devices. It's known as DEP, which is Device Enrollment Program. And that's rather significant because it allowed you to auto-enroll via policies in Miradore and limited to serial numbers that were purchased by an Apple through an Apple reseller. And the difference being is you no longer need to plug in a device to Mac for the Apple configurator in order to place the device in supervised mode. The other option that provides you with DEP, aside from auto enrollment, is Apple's volume purchase program, which is VPP for short. And that allows you to purchase licenses in bulk and deploy those licenses to all of your mobile devices or certain mobile devices through that DEP enrollment. And all of this integrates into Miradore as far as all your devices that you purchase through Apple and all of your applications that you purchase. So really streamline that enrollment process and made it a lot easier for organizations to roll out a mobile device. But ultimately, having a device in a mobile device management utility and being able to prove that a device was encrypted severely limits your liability. If you can prove with an MDM or a Miradore that a device was encrypted, you no longer have to report a breach to the Health and Human Services and have potential fines based on loss of EPHI through a lost mobile device or stolen mobile device. As long as you can reasonably prove that there's a low probability that EPHI was read by an unauthorized source, then you do not need to report a breach to the government. And that's very, very significant. So we've talked about the business need for an MDM with regards to HIPAA. I wanted to touch briefly in closing here to talk about why VCPI chose Miradore as our partner for deploying a mobile device management software. So Miradore, when we were looking for a partner, Miradore struck us as having developed a simple cloud-based platform which is constantly improving and adapting to the changing landscape of how mobile devices are used for our clients. I did mention the integration with the Apple DEP and VPP program. They've also recently integrated with the Android for Work platform, and this is very important. Google really, they had to play catch up with Apple with regards to mobile device management. Prior to having Android for Work as an option, organizations were really extremely limited to the device configurations that you could set on an Android device, with the exception of the Samsung devices with their Knox platform. That can be fine for organizations that have a strict company-provided mobile device scenario, but not really so much with a BYOD situation. Miradore, they did an excellent job with first with implementing the DEP and VPP integration, and followed up with Android for Work as well. The other really important thing to us specifically is that Miradore is MSP friendly. As I touched upon earlier, we have a great responsibility to keep that EPHI data delineated to each specific client of ours. Having a separate client structure, and more specifically separate portals, web-based portals, to allow us to delineate that data between our clients is really paramount for our business. We do have a lot of clients that come to us and they say, you know, you guys manage all of our IT for us, and they may just have one person at the corporate office that's maybe the security compliance officer that works with us directly, and we handle a lot of the rest of their IT needs. And then we also have other clients that still do have some local IT staff. So having that separate portal, that delineation, it allows us to provide that IT staff with access into the portal so that they can easily report on the status of their own devices, and to review the compliancy with each device. and also to review the policies. Like I said, Miradore is constantly adding their new features and device controls, as with each version of the various mobile OSs. Oftentimes, new APIs are released, and Miradore is usually very quickly adapting and giving additional options for control and visibility of their devices. And they also have a MSP-friendly licensing model. A lot of MDMs and really vendors that I talk to, they have a structure where you end up needing to purchase a license for a year at a time, whether that's 100, 500, 1,000. Doesn't always work with many of our clients because total number of enrolled devices can fluctuate quite a bit. So having that MSP-friendly licensing model makes it not only easier on us with providing that to our clients, but also for our clients so that they can stay cost conscious as well. So I'll finish up my portion here that, Sharon, we all have a mutual responsibility as either a covered entity or a business associate to ensure the privacy and security of protected health information. Talked today about the laws provisioned that govern the protection of health information, and along with the importance of having mobile devices enrolled in an MDM solution such as Miradore. And then finally, how Miradore was the right choice for VCPI to partner with. So I thank everyone here, and at this point, I will pass it back to Sean.
Okay, great. Thank you, Kevin, so much for that very insightful presentation. And now we're going to go to the Q&A part of the session. So with that said, so one question we have here, this is towards Andreas. Are runtime permissions also changeable without using Android for Enterprise?
Oh, thanks, Sean. That's a good question. No, they aren't. That makes Android for Enterprise so powerful because there you can do change run permissions on our server side in Miradore Online. If you have to install an app directly from the normal Play Store, not from the managed Play Store, or via APK file, then you can't set permissions on the server side. And setting permissions at the server side is very powerful and very important for the security of devices and company data, I think.
Okay, great. Thank you, Andreas. Question for Kevin. So as an MSP, how long does it take to get a typical customer up and running in Miradore?
Yeah, it's a good question. Obviously they can depend upon the size and needs of the organizations, but oftentimes the initial setup and configuration and testing normally will take about 1 week from my end, and then usually in the past it's been a few week rollout to a month where our clients are enrolling the devices, and so yeah, it's usually about that amount of time, and it can vary depending upon how they're enrolling their devices or what types of configurations options they're looking for.
Okay, great. Then I think we can go to closing. So I'd like to especially thank Kevin Boswell from VCPI for taking the time out today to present this this very useful case study with Miradore Online in HIPAA regulations, and of course for Andreas for his demonstration, and for those who have attended. So we will have a transcript of this Q&A session sent out to you soon, along with a link to the video recording of the webinar. So I'd like to thank everyone once again, and have a very nice rest of your week. Thank you,
Thanks.
everybody. Thanks.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Bye.